Good evening, folks, and happy draft week, and welcome in to a brand new week of programming here on the MI6 Sports Network, as well as part two of our Wild Sports Talk mock draft special here on this Monday evening. I hope you guys are doing fantastic here on this Monday, and I hope you guys all had a fabulous weekend. Isaiah here joining you from sunny San Francisco Bay. I got my co-host Sammy with me tonight as well, and unfortunately Loro could not be with us today because he is out calling the Laker game on the Colorcast app, so make sure you guys go check that out when this program is finished. But Sammy, good evening to you, my man. Happy draft week. How's life, my guy?
Life is doing me very well, man. Very well. Very nice weather out here in Western PA, so I'm living it. How have you been, Isaiah?
Well, Sammy, today I woke up a bit sore because yesterday, we went out to San Francisco on a nice sunny day and played some football, so my arms are a bit sore, but I'll be able to manage. But man, this draft week, I'm kind of over it already because there's just so much different news reports and news stories and all of that stuff. I just don't even know what to believe. So I just wish that Thursday would hurry up and get here so we could end all this anticipation. But before we get into the draft talk and the mock drafts, and before we get into our show for tonight, we just want to remind all of you guys out there to go check out our MI6 Sports Network YouTube channel. We have our MI6 Sports Network programs, our podcasts, as well as our short clips there on our YouTube channel. So make sure you guys go check that out. The link is right down there. And also, if you haven't yet, go check out our MI6 Sports Network Facebook page. We have our podcast there, our articles there, and also our short clips on there. Go check that out, and also give us a like and a follow as well. And also go check out our MI6 Sports Network website for various announcements from the network, various articles from the network, and also our podcast as well. You can find all that on our MI6 Sports Network website. The link is right down there. And also go check out our MI6 Sports Network Twitter account for our MI6 Sports Network Hot Takes Extravaganza. It's been going on since the start of March. We are in round 2 right now of our MI6 Sports Network Hot Takes Extravaganza. So we have a long way to go, but we're slowly getting there. So make sure you guys go vote on the various polls that are up on our Twitter. And one last thing before we get started, go into the comments section. Callan McClurg, my guy, is tuning in. He says, Isaiah, this is Callan. I'm watching. Callan, thanks so much for tuning in, my man. Looking forward to the Marvel show with you and John Alcorn that will be coming your way. I believe 30 minutes after this program concludes tonight. And also Callan says, screw the Dodgers 2020, Padres 2021 to 2098 champs. And also Callan writes in to mess with me. He says, Mac Jones to the 49ers. Callan, you just wait, man. You just wait. You laugh at the 49ers right now. The Bears are going to end up doing something stupid. So just keep laughing at the 49ers. But going into our sports coverage for tonight, we have one topic we want to get to before we get into our mock drafts, and that is reports coming out from Ian Rappaport over the weekend, and that is the 49ers have reportedly narrowed down their choices for the number 3 overall pick in this upcoming NFL draft to Alabama quarterback Mac Jones and North Dakota State quarterback Trey Lance. Those are the 2 quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are reportedly deliberating on right now. Sammy, before I get to you on this topic, I just want to go on this first because I'm, the 49ers fan of this network. And let me just say this. Like I said in the beginning, I just want draft week to be over with. I just want the draft to be here already because there's just so much different reports that are coming out. You have one report saying that they definitely know who they're picking. You have another report saying that they've narrowed it down to 2 guys, and that they're still deliberating on who they're going to take. And then you have Adam Schefter today saying that the 49ers don't know who they're going to take. It's still between 3 to 4 guys. So there's just like a lot of different, conflicting reports going around. And, we're not going to know for sure who the Niners are going to take until Thursday, but this like suspense is just killing me, man. This is like going to be the biggest decision that the 49ers make in like the last 20 to 30 years. So they have to get this right. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's jobs are both on the line with this pick. So this is one of the biggest decisions in franchise history. And I'm gonna put the camera on me for this. I'm gonna say this. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, I want you guys to listen to me. If you draft Mac Jones with the number 3 pick and you traded all those assets, those future assets for Mac Jones, who I think that he's the second coming of Jimmy Garoppolo. His highest ceiling might be Jimmy G. His lowest ceiling maybe Drew Lock. If you did that for Mac Jones, I will call for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's firing live on the air on our MI6 Sports Network Draft Extravaganza, which you can catch on Thursday night at we'll start at 4:45 p.m. Pacific time. But I will call for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's firing if that happens, because you don't trade all those future assets that you did to get a quarterback that has the same skill set and is about the same as the quarterback that you have right now. If you're going to trade all those future assets and mortgage your entire future to bank on a rookie quarterback, you better get a quarterback that is much, much better than the quarterback that you have right now. And Mac Jones, listen, I have no problem with Mac Jones. I just don't think that he's much of an upgrade than Jimmy Garoppolo. Mac Jones, I think that his career will be off to a rocky start in San Francisco if you draft him, and he's not going to make the Niners any better. I think he might turn into the next Alex Smith, and we don't want that guy. We want an explosive, mobile quarterback, which is Justin Fields or Trey Lance, or if my dream comes true and Zach Wilson falls to the 49ers, you better take Zach Wilson. We want one of those 3 instead of Mac Jones, so please draft either one of those 3. Stay away from Mac Jones. The Patriots can have him. The Broncos can have him. Any team can have him. You do not mortgage your future to get a guy that is the same as your current quarterback. But, Sammy, I want to go to you next on this topic. What is your reaction to the reports that Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and the 49ers have reportedly narrowed down their choices to Mac Jones and Trey Lance?
Well, I think that we need to read between the lines, between all these reports. It's in black and white. They want Mac Jones, and I think that's who Kyle Shanahan wants. And I don't know if the 49ers front office will have as big as an ego as they did whenever Jim Harbaugh was there, and try to undercut their head coach and do this and that. So I think they're going to listen to their head coach this time, and they're going to take Mac Jones. I think Kyle Shanahan is very comfortable with a pocket passer quarterback, and I think that is the type of quarterback that the front office is going to give him. I don't think he's the best quarterback. I think he's going to be a Christian Ponder type quarterback where he's drafted way before he should have been, but it is how the cookie crumbles at this point. That's what they want, and they traded to get him.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Kyle Shanahan, the thing about Kyle Shanahan that bothers me, even though I sing his praises as a head coach and as an offensive mind, is that he lets his ego take full advantage of him when it comes to making decisions. I mean, the guy wanted Kirk Cousins so badly that he passed on Deshaun Watson. He passed on Patrick Mahomes. He passed on other quarterbacks because he wanted Kirk Cousins and he wanted to prove to the rest of the people out there that, hey, I'm this great offensive mind. I don't need a great quarterback to win a championship. I can be the one to make that quarterback great. And that's the problem that I have with Kyle Shanahan is that, yeah, I feel like he's just so focused on being like that, this offensive genius and being the next Bill Walsh and being the reason why the 49ers win, that when the 49ers ultimately lose, it's going to be because of him. And the reason that, or no, and they're going to lose because he let his ego get the best of him and not got a better quarterback because of his ego. But I want to go to the comment section real quick. Christy Wilson says Trey Lance, in her opinion, might be a better choice for the Niners. I totally agree with you on that, Christy. And Callan says Mac Jones with laughing face emojis. But folks, it's time for the mock draft segment of our show. The reason why you guys came to watch our program tonight. Sammy could not make it to our part one of our mock draft special with me and Ryan last week, so we'll reveal his mock draft. And there's also a catch, folks, is that I will not be reading my mock draft tonight. I will be instead revealing Loro's mock draft because I reviewed my mock draft last week on the program on Thursday. So if you want to go check out my mock draft, go back to Thursday's episode for my mock draft. But Sammy, are you ready to reveal your mock draft, my guy?
Ready as I'll ever be.
All right, so let's start off with the number one pick. Sammy, I'll let you go first on this, but the Jaguars are on the clock. Who do you have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking with the number one pick?
I have no surprise. Trevor Lawrence. I think he'll be the perfect centerpiece for what they're trying to do. And I don't think it's a surprise. I think everyone knows that it's all but signed, basically. Trevor Lawrence is going to be the number one overall pick.
I can't disagree with you on this. I had Trevor Lawrence to the Jaguars number one on my mock draft. I think it's a no-brainer. I think that's why Urban Meyer took the job with the Jacksonville Jaguars, is the ability to coach to coach Trevor Lawrence and be part of a young team there in Jacksonville. So I think, like you said, it's all but signed. Trevor Lawrence is definitely going to the Jacksonville Jaguars at number one. I would be totally shocked if the Jaguars take another quarterback. So you have Trevor Lawrence going to Jacksonville at number one. I got Trevor Lawrence going to Jacksonville at number one. And Loro has Trevor Lawrence going to the Jacksonville Jaguars at number one. So we all totally agree with that selection. Let's move on to number two, the New York Jets. They just hired new head coach Robert Saleh, the former defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. They also traded away Sam Darnold, paving the way for them to draft their rookie quarterback. Sammy, you're Joe Douglas for the next minute or two. You're on the clock as the New York Jets. Who are you taking with your number two pick?
Well, I'm not going to make the pick myself, but I think what Joe Douglas will do is pick Zach Wilson. I think the Jets, from what my perspective is, that they think that this is the safest pick. Me personally, I think Fields is a better quarterback, but from what reports are saying from the Jets camp, that they really like the kid from BYU to be the next quarterback.
Yeah, I think that I agree. A lot of the reports right now are saying that Zach Wilson to the Jets are a lock, but the Jets haven't, themselves, they haven't come out and said anything. But for me, I had Zach Wilson going to the Niners. I had Justin Fields going to the Jets simply because, of the relationship that Mike LaFleur and Robert Saleh have with Justin Fields dating back to when Justin Fields was in high school. I just think that they have a previous relationship. They know what Justin Fields is all about. And, Justin Fields, for me, I think he's he's going to be a better quarterback than Zach Wilson, because I think he has more explosive traits than Zach Wilson. Though the epilepsy thing that recently came out, I am worried about that. But Loro agrees with you on this, Sammy. Loro has Zach Wilson going to the New York Jets with the number three, or no, with the number 2 pick in this upcoming NFL draft. So you got Justin Fields, or no, you got Zach Wilson. He's got Zach Wilson. I got Justin Fields. Let's move on to pick number 3, my San Francisco 49ers. I had Zach Wilson falling to the 49ers, but you don't have Zach Wilson going to the Niners. You have him going to the Jets. Sammy, who do you think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch take when they're on the clock at pick number 3?
Well, I think they did say this earlier today, so I'll just go out and say it again. Mac Jones. They're going to get the Mac attack in San Francisco. So that's who I have going there. I was going to explain a little bit more into the pick, but I don't think I need to because Kyle Shanahan did all the talking for me.
Kyle Shanahan said at his press conference today he wanted a Drew Brees type passer with Lamar Jackson's athletic ability. I know, a lot of people have Mac Jones pegged to the 49ers at number 3. And if that ends up being the pick, I will support Mac Jones, but I will not like the selection of Mac Jones. But Loro also agrees with you. He's got Mac Jones going to the 49ers at number 3. And I think it's also for the same reasons that you just listed. So you and Loro both agree on that. Moving on to pick number 4, the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock. They hired new head coach Arthur Smith. They hired a new GM and Terry Fontenot over the offseason. Matt Ryan, he's got 2 more years left on his current contract. So, Sammy, let me ask you, who do you think the Falcons are going to get? Do you think they get a player to help them win now, or do you think they draft Matt Ryan's successor? Who do you have the Falcons taking at number 4?
I don't think they draft a successor yet. What they need help is on defense. They needed help on that for the past couple of years. And this, this can get misconstrued as a win now type of pick, but I think that this is a pick that helps them. A linebacker. I'm gonna say Micah Parsons from Penn State. Okay, he's a great leader, and that's not. And linebacker's not a position where it's a win now position. It's a position where you could get leadership and build a legitimate defense for the future around that type of position. So I think Micah Parsons, last year he was one of the best defensive players in the Big Ten, and easily has been for the past couple of years. So I think that if the Falcons draft him and develop him correctly, he could be a force to reckon with in the NFC South.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, the Falcons, they have to deal with Tom Brady and that high-powered Bucs offense. They also have to deal with, New Orleans and their high-powered offense. It doesn't matter who they get at quarterback. Whomever they play at quarterback, they will always have a high-powered offense because you saw what happened when Drew Brees went down a couple of years ago. They plugged in Teddy Bridgewater, and still their offense did not miss a beat. And then, the Panthers, I feel like with Sam Darnold, they're on the come up. So they definitely do need to fix their defense. But, Sammy, with the 4th pick, Loro has Kyle Pitts, the all-world tight end out of Florida, being drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. And I kind of get that pick by him. I had Kyle Pitts going to the Atlanta Falcons as well. And I think the reason why he had that is because, like we've been saying, I don't think they're going to draft Matt Ryan's successor because you don't want to get whomever is left over between the Jets, the 49ers, the Jaguars. So you want to get a guy that, if you were going to get Matt Ryan's successor, you can either get a guy later in the draft who you want, or you can get a guy, in next year's draft who you want as well. So you have a lot of time to find Matt Ryan's successor. It's not an immediate need right now. So I think the Falcons with Kyle Pitts, imagine an offense with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Kyle Pitts with Matt Ryan throwing them the football. That's going to be a very explosive offense. They do, however, need to fix that defense. So if they get that high-powered offense, they could score points with the Saints, the Bucs, and the Panthers as well. But you're not going to be winning anything going up against, or having that weak defense going up against the Bucs, the Saints, and the Panthers as well.
And another thing is that they also were notorious for blowing leads. Defense would really help them be able to keep that lead up, even if the offense was blowing it late in the game.
All right, moving to pick number 5, Sammy. The Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock. Joe Burrow got hit a ton last season. He suffered a season-ending torn ACL. So the Bengals, they need a lot of help on the offensive line. Receiver is a need for them as well. Who do you have Zach Taylor and the Bengals taking at number 5?
Well, I have the bell cow going off right now. I have a trade going off. The Broncos giving up because for a top 5 pick, and this is a top 5, yeah, it's a top 5 pick. You're gonna give it an arm and a leg either way. I have the Broncos giving up a first, two firsts, a second, and a sixth round for this pick. So it is an arm and a leg to please their, because I've heard that they need to please their unhappy fan base or impatient fan base. They're trying to do that. And I have the Broncos selecting Justin Fields out of Ohio State. So that way he's not waiting in the draft room that long. And to address the obvious quarterback need of the many needs that they have on offense.
Even though I disagree with that trade, you have the Broncos trading up to number 5. I could see the reasoning behind it because, Vic Fangio needs to win now to save his job. I think that out of all the coaches on the hot seat, his seat might be the hottest right now. And Justin Fields, you could plug him in right now and try to win right away, given the fact that you have a great defense. They add a lot of pieces to that defense. Von Miller, Kareem Jackson. They added Kyle Fuller as well. So Denver's got a great defense. They just need the quarterback to get the football out to their offensive pieces like Cortland Sutton and Noah Fant and all those guys that they have on the offense. So I could see Denver, trading up, especially if Justin Fields is on the board. But with number 5, Loro actually has, maybe kind of a small shocker with his pick. He's got the Cincinnati Bengals drafting Jamar Chase, the wide receiver from LSU, instead of an offensive lineman like a Penei Sewell or a Rashawn Slater from Northwestern. And I'm trying to find some, reasoning behind this pick. Jamar Chase was best friends with Joe Burrow when they were at LSU. They have that connection. And there's been, a lot of rumors that Joe Burrow is stumping for Jamar Chase to be that pick. But I think if the Bengals make that pick, I think everybody needs to be fired because your quarterback got hit like a gazillion times last season, and his season ended short because of a torn ACL. So why would you go get receiver when that wasn't even your biggest weakness last season? Your biggest weakness was the offensive line, and you didn't do that much to address that weakness. And you have Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater, the two best offensive linemen, falling to their lap, and you get either one of them on a silver platter. So I think that the Bengals, if they make this pick, they are making a really big mistake. But moving on to, actually, before we move on to pick number 6, we had some comments coming in from our fans. Casey King says, "Good evening, guys. What's going on, Casey? Thank you so much for tuning into our show tonight on this Monday." Also, Casey says, "Niners, I'm hearing more and more Mac Jones." MI6 Sports Network writes in, everybody at the MI6 Sports Network is getting a Mac Jones jersey. I'll just tell you guys this. Tune in for our draft extravaganza on Thursday, April 29th at 7:45 p.m. Eastern, 4:45 p.m. Pacific, and you will see a legendary reaction from me if Mac Jones is in fact the pick. And also, Casey King says the Bengals will find a way to go Higgins and screw it up. But Sammy, before we go into number 6, what do you think about Loro having Jamar Chase as the number 5th pick on his mock draft?
Well, I have him also taking Jamar Chase, but that is because I also have him trading down, and I have him getting another pick. I agree with you on the offensive line. I think, honestly, what the Bengals should have done was keep Andy Dalton last year. They released him with 1 year left on his contract. You should have just kept him and then let Andy Dalton play his last year out that 5-year contract, let him leave as a bank, leave on his own terms, and then have Joe Burrow this year be his first year playing. But what many people don't do is that they don't keep their franchise quarterbacks happy. Russell Wilson, uh, Deshaun Watson, those are two quarterbacks that are very disgruntled, and neither of them are 30 yet. So for them to be that irritated and one out, and now your new franchise quarterback, who has no reason at all to stay in Cincinnati, he's not obligated to play his whole career out in Cincinnati, wants to have his friends. I'd say trade down, draft his buddy, but then you build around his offensive line. You build around the weaknesses. You want to make sure the quarterback is happy, the franchise piece is happy, because if he's not happy, he's not going to stay. He's not going to be coming back for that second contract whenever the rookie contract expires.
Well, but let me ask you this, Sammy. Like, if the Bengals, I know they want to keep Joe Burrow like happy, but wouldn't it be more important though to keep Joe Burrow healthy? Because even if he's happy, if he's still gonna keep getting hit, the guy I don't think will last more than 4 to 5 years in the NFL.
I definitely agree with you. And there ain't no reason. And we're looking at willl, and we're looking at other top offensive linemen. There's also no guarantee that these offensive linemen will be good in the NFL. We've seen second, third, first overall picks become busts in the NFL that were offensive tackles. So I would say that's why I said trade down, because if someone's trading up to the top 5 like the Broncos, they're going to give you an arm and a leg to get up there. So you take that arm and a leg, and you get more offensive linemen. You get more offensive help, add more depth on it. That's why I said trade down. I don't think at number 5 that you take Jamar Chase. That's why I would prefer trade down.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you're going to take Jamar Chase, you will be better off trading down and acquiring more assets, and then taking Jamar Chase at whatever pick that you trade down for. I think number 5. If the Bengals were to stay at number 5, they would be better off getting Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater to help protect Joe Burrow. But hey, I mean, it's the Bengals. They always find a way to screw things up. So let's see what they do in this upcoming NFL draft. But folks, feel free to drop down in the comments section who you guys think the Cincinnati Bengals will draft at number 5. But moving into pick number 6, and that is the Miami Dolphins. Brian Flores and the Dolphins, they have accumulated a lot of assets. They have a team that, led by Tua Tagovailoa. There is some question marks around Tua Tagovailoa and if he is the quarterback moving forward in Miami. But Sammy, who do you think Brian Flores and the Miami Dolphins will select with their number 6 pick?
I think they're going to get Tua's BFF from Alabama, Devonta Smith. They had that national championship throw, and I think that they're going to be having a lot more connections in the future. That'd be great for Devonta Smith to reunite for the Tua Tagovailoa. And I'm sure they'll talk about what I think Devonta Smith said whenever he said Mac Jones was the better quarterback. I'm sure they're going to talk about that a little bit. But I think that this could be a dynamic duo. That's something that the Miami Dolphins need to put them over the edge, because I think they're already a playoff team. With a dynamic piece like Devonta Smith, that could possibly put him over. And if Tua Tagovailoa breaks out this year, this could be a potential, threat to the AFC East and the AFC Championship in total. And next pick is the Detroit Lions. I have them taking Trey Lance. The Trey Lance, he's a very young quarterback, has a very pretty deep arm, and he's a really good quarterback as far as prospect. I think with quarterback Jared Goff in front of him, it would be helpful because he could stay back and develop for a year. And with his decision making, Trey Lance's decision making, he already has the tools. All he needs to do is adapt to the NFL speed. He threw 28 touchdowns last year, 0 interceptions his sophomore year. He came out, he threw his first interception in his college career in the first game last year. But, you see him bounce back and he still play a very perfect game outside of that. The next pick, I have the Panthers selecting P9 Sewell, offensive tackle from Oregon. Player, he's obviously the best tackle in college football right now. And, the Panthers, their real weakness was offensive line last year. I think that you can't, be successful without an offensive line at all. And Teddy Bridgewater last year struggled. Sam Darnold's going to struggle. Christian McCaffrey, he's probably gonna get hurt again. I mean, if you don't have an offensive line, all your star players are just gonna keep on getting hurt. Isaiah, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, sorry about that, man. We had some tech issues earlier. My computer overheated, but I'm back now. But where were we, Sammy? Like pick number 6?
Pick number 8. I mean, before you left, though, pick number 6. Yeah,
All
the
right,
Eagles.
So Loro agreed with you on pick number 6 for the Dolphins. He had Devontae Smith, Tua's BFF, going to Miami with the number 6 pick. I think you said it as well. The Dolphins, they're committed to Tua as their quarterback. That's why they traded down, traded down with the 49ers. Then they traded back up with the Eagles because they wanted to accumulate more assets. And then they also wanted to get Devontae Smith as well. I think Devontae Smith has been the guy they've been targeting all along. He's really fast. He's really great at route running. The only thing about Devontae Smith that I'm kind of worried about is his thin frame. The guy is 6'1", 174 pounds, and he's got to bulk up a lot if he wants to, be a great wide receiver in the NFL. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. But I agree. I think Tua and Devontae Smith will have that connection with the Miami Dolphins every Sunday. Sammy, who was your 7th pick?
Trey Lance to the Lions.
Oh, you had Trey Lance to the Lions. Wow. So I think Loro has a trade here. He's got the LA Chargers trading up with the Detroit Lions. He hasn't provided me any what's the compensation package going to be, but he's got the Chargers trading up with the Detroit Lions, and with the number 7 pick, the Los Angeles Chargers will select Panay Sewell from Oregon with that 7th pick. And, it might be kind of a shock that they trade up, but I can understand this pick because the Chargers, they really need offensive line help to protect Justin Herbert. I believe there was a stat that I read that Justin Herbert was, I think, the second or third quarterback hit the most in the NFL. So they definitely got to fix that offensive line and give Justin Herbert more time to throw the football. And Panay Sewell, I watched him in Oregon. He was a beast, both in pass blocking and run blocking. I think some sites have called him one of the best run blockers that we've seen in the last 5 years. He's an absolute monster. The Chargers, with their new head coach, Brandon Staley, he's going to run more of a Rams offense. So that means that they're going to try to run the ball a lot to set up the play action game. And if you're going to run that type of offense, you're going to need a great a run blocker to help get you those wide lanes. So I totally understand the pick by Loro at number 7. But Sammy, what do you think about what Loro has with the number 7 pick? And that is the Chargers trading up with the Lions to get the number 7 pick and then to draft Panay Sewell from Oregon at number 7.
Well, getting more teammates back together with Herbert and Sewell, and you have to protect your franchise piece. The face of the new franchise, and Justin Herbert. So I understand the selection.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about the Oregon connection from Herbert and Sewell. But yeah, that's gonna be very interesting. Those two have a connection dating back to their college days, and Sewell obviously has familiarity protecting Justin Herbert. So I think it's a really good pick by the Chargers and a good trade as well by both the Chargers and the Lions. The Chargers getting their guy at number 7, and also the Lions getting more assets because they don't need to draft their quarterback now. They have Jared Goff. They can wait until next year to go draft their quarterback then. But Sammy, with the 8th pick, it was the Carolina Panthers. Who do you have Matt Rule and the Panthers drafting with the number 8 pick?
As I was saying, Penisi will. You got to protect your franchise and Sam Darnold and or Bridgewater, and you got to keep McCaffrey healthy, and you have to make holes for him. So I think that would be the smartest pick. And the Panthers, they had one of the worst offensive lines in football last year, so that's definitely something that they need to improve on this year.
All right, with Loro's number 8 pick, he has the Panthers staying put at number 8, and he's got the Panthers drafting linebacker Micah Parsons from Penn State. And I I don't really understand this pick. I kind of get it a little, but I don't understand it because the Panthers, I feel like they need offensive line more than they need a linebacker. Their defense was, they were all right last year. They weren't the best. They did spend a bulk of the draft last season trying to get defensive pieces to add to that defense, like Gross Matos and Jeremy Chin and those guys. Micah Parsons, I think, would solidify that defense. But if I'm the Panthers, if I'm Matt Rule and Scott Fitterer, I would go get Rashawn Slater if he's on the board because I think Rashawn Slater is an absolute monster both in pass blocking and run blocking, and I think he would pay dividends more for the Panthers than adding Micah Parsons at number 8. But I think that's just my opinion. But Sammy, what do you think about Loro's pick? Or yeah, Mike Loro's pick of Micah Parsons at number 8 to Carolina.
I'm not a big fan of it. They definitely need to address their offensive line. I think that pick is definitely going to be an offensive lineman. No matter who it is, if Sewell's up on the board, or if it's Slater, or if it's the third or fourth option. And the weakness of the Panthers is obvious. It's offensive line. They need to protect the quarterback. So, yeah.
All right, moving on to number 9. My guy John Alcorn's Denver Broncos are on the clock. I know you have Cincinnati on the board because they traded up with they traded up with Cincinnati to get Justin Fields out of Ohio State. But Loro, he's got the Broncos staying put at number 9, and he's got them drafting Trey Lance, the quarterback out of North Dakota State. And when I look at this pick, Trey Lance to Denver at number 9, Trey Lance, he's got a lot of tools in his bag. I'm thinking that Lowell put that there because he thinks that Trey Lance has more upside than Drew Lock, and I think that he's got the Broncos just committing to Drew Lock for this year as like a bridge quarterback, and then turning to Trey Lance because Trey Lance is not ready now. You cannot play him right now and expect him to succeed right now. I think he needs to sit down and develop for like 1 or 2 years, and then he will be successful. But now you can't play him from day one and expect him to be successful. And I think Denver, they need a quarterback that is ready right now. That's why I think a Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, or Justin Fields would be a much better pick for them than Trey Lance because Vic Fangio and the Broncos, they need to win right now, given the fact that they've spent so much on the defense. They have the weapons on offense, and Fangio himself is on the hot seat. So he's got Trey Lance at number 9, but I don't really like that pick. I would much rather go with, Fields or Mac Jones if they are on the board at that time. But Sammy, before we go to your pick, what do you think about Laurel having Trey Lance at number 9?
I think if the Broncos stay put, they're not going quarterback. I think they're going offensive lineman or to help Drew Lock or the successor of Drew Lock. Because the team is right now, outside of quarter, even if you go outside of quarterback or wide receiver, they still are a very weak offense. The quarterback, I'm pretty sure they had a wide receiver play quarterback last year. So, it shows how brittle that team is. So they don't have just one weakness. If they're going to stay put, they're better off just saving their pick on the quarterback and then maybe drafting one next year or trading up for one next year and just drafting a Rashawn Slater or a, Kyle Pitts if he's still up there at the time. Either way, I don't think that a quarterback would be a great fit at the number 9 pick.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think with that pick, I just think Trey Lance would not be a great fit since he needs development. He needs like a year or two of development, and Denver cannot afford that to have him sit on the bench for 1 or 2 years and expect. And yeah, they can't have him for 1 or 2 years to sit on the bench and develop because Fangio will be out of a job if that's the case. So I don't like this pick. But Sammy, how about you? Who do you have going as your number 9 pick?
I have Jamar Chase. I think Cincinnati, the rest of the draft will focus because they already have 2 second-round picks because of this trade. Is going to focus a lot more on offensive line, a lot more on the big meaty guys. But right now, you got to keep the franchise quarterback happy, and you got to do what you need to do to keep him happy. And Jamar Chase, he's one of the top wide receivers in the draft. So having him and Tyler Boyd on the outside would be fantastic for them. All you have to do now is get yourself another tight end and give yourself an offensive line to protect Joe Burrow, and you just let him work.
I like that trade a lot because, Denver, they get their quarterback in Justin Fields, but Cincinnati, you know, I would have much rather them taken an offensive lineman, but they take Joe Burrow's best friend to keep him happy. They take a guy that, he's got a great connection with dating back to their days at LSU. They gave him another weapon on offense, and also they accumulate more assets, which will help them, either trade back up, get another first round pick, or even get more offensive linemen. Because I think offensive line is one of the deep positions in this draft. So the Bengals, they don't I would much rather them go get a Panay Sewell or Rashawn Slater. But if they can get them later, it's still I won't be mad about because I feel like this draft is just so deep at that position, so they can afford to do that. But moving on to pick number 10, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones and co are on the clock. Last year Dak Prescott suffered that gruesome ankle injury in the middle of the last season. Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys did not have a very good first season as the Cowboys head coach. Their offense was great, but their defense was their Achilles heel. The defense gave up over like 30 to 40 points every single game. It was just a mess all around. They did fire Mike Nolan, their defensive coordinator. Their defensive coordinator now is the former Falcons head coach, Dan Quinn. So hopefully he can somehow improve their defense. But Sammy, I'll go to you first on this. Who do you have Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys picking at number 10?
Well, if you're keeping track at home, Kyle Pitts is still up on the board. And I don't know if you guys remember this. Back in 2013, Jerry Jones raved and raved about how much he loved Johnny Manziel. And whenever his pick came up, he did not draft Johnny Manziel. He drafted offensive line. He drafted team need. And I'll say this: if he drafts Kyle Pitts at this pick and not a defensive player, Jerry Jones needs to step down and just be an owner and hire a real GM. They need to draft Patrick Surtain from Alabama, cornerback from Alabama, because this defense needs all the help they can get at this point.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. This defense is the real problem. The Dallas Cowboys, they don't need any help on offense. Their offense is extremely prolific with guys like Amari Cooper and Zeke and CeeDee Lamb and those guys led by Dak Prescott. So their offense is fine. And you're going to take Kyle Pitts. You're just trying to be like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and have a super high-powered offense. It's a luxury for them. They don't need Kyle Pitts. What they need is defensive help. And Sammy, in my mock draft, I have the Dallas Cowboys actually pulling kind of a shocker on everyone in drafting Gregory Rousseau from Miami to help improve their pass rush because their pass rush last season was non-existent. They had, I believe, one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL, and they just lost Aldon Smith to the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm thinking, you build your defense from the defensive line onto back with the defensive line first, and I think that makes a lot of sense for them. But Loro actually agrees with you on this pick. He's got the Dallas Cowboys drafting Patrick Surtain to improve their defense. Patrick Surtain is one of the best corners in this draft from Alabama. He's a guy that has great hands, and I think he would be a great lockdown corner from the Dallas Cowboys. But my issue with this pick, though, is yes, you address the secondary, but I think that even your pass rush is is one of the real weaknesses of this team. If you can't have a legitimate pass rush, it doesn't matter how great your secondary is. Like, you still will be giving up a lot of yards and a lot of points because the other quarterback will have like 8 to 10 seconds to throw the football. So I would rather the Cowboys go after a pass rusher, but Patrick Surtain, I mean, I can't really argue with this pick.
Yeah, definitely. It's a no-brainer at this point. You gotta address the pass defense. It was one of the worst defenses last year, and probably one of the worst defenses in league history.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And going into our comment section, the MI6 Sports Network, Callan writes in, Drew Lock is a huge Higgins. And also the MI6 Sports Network says Aldon Smith now plays for Seattle. But moving on to pick number 11, it's the New York Giants led by head coach Joe Judge. Daniel Jones is in his third season, I believe, with the team. Saquon Barkley coming off a torn ACL. But Sammy, who do you have the Giants picking at number 11?
I don't have them building on that loaded offense. I have them addressing a weakness of theirs, that defensive line. Quiddy Pay from the Wolverines. I have them selecting. Very good pass rusher, probably one of the best pass rushers in this draft, which says how weak this draft is. But still, you get the best pass rusher in this draft, and he's a defensive lineman. Those are two extreme needs that the Giants have. The Giants in general, they need to build up that defense in the interior of that defense. They probably have one of the weakest defensive lines in their own division, and that saying a lot since you have the Cowboys in that same division. So that I think Quiddy Pay from the Wolverines is my selection for the Giants.
I think Quiddy Pay would be a great selection for the New York Giants. I know my guy Ryan Schreiner is very high on him. He said that he could be a poor man's Nick Bosa, which is saying a lot, with his speed off the edge. So that makes a lot of sense for the Giants. But with the pick number 11, Loro's got Gregory Rousseau from Miami going to the New York Giants at number 11. Gregory Rousseau. I think I might be more high on him than everybody else is. This guy, I think I saw a stat that he was second in college football, in all of college football, with 15 and a half sacks last season. And that he is tremendous for him. He is, a designated pass rusher. He's not really that good at stopping the run. He's just the guy that can get after the quarterback. And Sammy, imagine Gregory Rousseau, a guy that's had 15 and a half sacks last season, with Quinnen Williams on your defensive line. That might be one of the most ferocious defensive lines in the NFL.
Oh yeah, definitely. They'd probably be the second and third best in the division. If only the Washington football team was in that same division, with Chase Young and Jonathan Allen on that same defensive line. So that that's a lot of competition out there in the NFC East when it comes to defensive line.
Yeah, you got the Washington football team with Chase Young, with Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, and then you got the Cowboys, the Eagles with Brandon Graham and those veterans, and then you have the Giants potentially with Leonard Williams and also Gregory Rousseau. So that is a great defensive line potentially for the New York Football Giants. But moving on to pick number 12, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. We're staying in the NFC East, and this pick, I think, yeah, it was originally San Francisco's, and then they traded to Miami. Miami traded it to Philadelphia for the number 6 pick. So Loro's got Philadelphia drafting Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver out of Alabama. I'm not sure if Jalen Waddle played with Jalen Hurts at Alabama. I think they might have played like their freshman year together in college. So you do have like that connection. But the Eagles, they need to improve their wide receivers. Alshon Jeffrey, you can't really count on him to consistently stay healthy. That guy's been injury prone for the last 3 to 4 seasons. And they also need to give Jalen Hurts weapons to throw the football to. I really like this pick for the New York Football Giants. The only thing about Jalen Waddle, though, Sammy, is that after his injury, he didn't look the same in the national championship game. So that might be something the Eagles should beware about. But Sammy, what do you think about this pick, and who do you have at pick number 12?
Well, Waddle did play with Jalen Hurts. It was Jalen Hurts' last year at Alabama. That awkward last year he had. But you remember, if you do remember the national championship game, that he was also hurt. He shouldn't have been playing that game. So he was hobbling around. Should not. Could barely run. Jalen Waddle, though, I have him as the 9th overall or 12th overall. My apologies. And the reason I have him is because when you ask any Eagles fan, you know, about Howie Roseman, it's not going to be about the first Super Bowl that the Eagles won, which is a huge deal. It's about how they drafted Jalen Rieger over players like Justin Jefferson, okay, at the same position. So I feel like Howie Roseman sees that he knows there's a huge need at quarterback. Obviously, they don't care that much about it since they traded down, but I think he's going to try to redeem himself and try to grab Jalen Waddle from Alabama.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. But Sammy, let me ask you this before we move on to the next pick, which for Lowell, he has the Detroit Lions at number 13 since he had them making that earlier trade with the Los Angeles Chargers. But you mentioned when you were talking about Jalen Waddle about how the Eagles needed or they have a huge need at the quarterback position. Are you not a believer in Jalen Hurts?
I'm not a believer in him being a future franchise quarterback. He could prove me wrong, but from what I've seen, he looks like a stand-in for right now, a bridge quarterback to their next franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I think me and you share the same sentiments about Jalen Hurts. I never really liked Jalen Hurts. I thought he was kind of more like a poor man's Lamar Jackson, where he was all about, running, and he didn't really, couldn't really throw the football that well. And I think he needs to improve on that. I know his passing skills last season wasn't that good, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to see what he can do with much more improved weapons. If they can get a Jalen Waddle or if they can get, one of the top receivers in this draft before I judge him. But our MI6 Sports Network says that, oh, my apology. It's not Leonard. It's not Quinnen Williams. It's Leonard Williams. If I said Quinnen Williams, my apologies. Quinnen Williams plays for the New York Jets. And MI6 says Jalen Hurts is average at best. Totally agree with you on that. And also, MI6 says Stars were better, or Hurts were better his last year in college with college teams with less than 4 to 5 wins on the season. And uh, also, he says Hurts isn't a franchise quarterback. I think the jury is still out on him, but I'm gonna see what he can do with a better supporting cast around him before I judge him. But moving on to pick number 13, Lowell's got the Detroit Lions on the clock because of an earlier trade with the Los Angeles Chargers, and Sammy with the number 13 pick. Laurel's got Detroit and their new head coach, Dan Campbell, drafting Rashawn Slater, the offensive lineman out of Northwestern. And I love this pick for the Detroit Lions because Detroit, they have Jared Goff right now. You don't need to draft a quarterback this draft. You could draft the quarterback either in next year's draft or even the year afterwards draft because Jared Goff, I believe, is under contract for like the next 3 years. So you do have that option. And Rashawn Slater, you can put him in there right now, and you can build that offensive line to protect Jared Goff and also to protect whomever is going to be your future franchise quarterback. You know, it's all about winning in the trenches in the NFL, and you need to have a good offensive line and defensive line to win in the trenches. I love this pick for the Detroit Lions. But Sammy, who do you have the Chargers taking at pick number 13?
Well, I have history being made here. Okay, the highest drafted tight end in NFL history right here. And when you think of the Chargers, you think of Antonio Gates, you think of Kellen Winslow Sr., you think of the great cornerback or tight end play. And, for Kyle Pitts to be the third tight end in that name would be fantastic. He's already making history by being the highest drafted tight end in NFL history. And, you had give Justin Herbert a new piece to play with this is probably the number one option rookie year. I mean, I think Kyle Pitts is probably the best player right now, straight from the draft in this whole draft class. I think he's the best player right now, and it'd be exciting to see Kyle Pitts and Justin Herbert connect for some touchdowns.
Wow, I'm shocked that you have Kyle Pitts falling all the way down to the Los Angeles Chargers because there's been a lot of reports out there that he's the top non-quarterback, the top offensive player, not a quarterback, on the draft board. And man, wow, a lot of these teams that passed on him, they're going to be really sorry that they didn't take Kyle Pitts earlier because I think this guy is going to be a star. You know, he's got great hands, he's a great route runner, and man, you think about that potential offense with Kyle Pitts, Keenan Allen, and all those receivers that they have. If they fix that offensive line, the Chargers are going to be a real threat in the AFC West.
Oh, definitely. It's also the thing about Kyle Pitts, and I had fallen because I had teams that would pick him that traded down. I think the Broncos would pick him had they have not traded down, or the Bengals possibly considered it, or even the Falcons considering it. But seeing how they have other needs, tight end is also, you could get a tight end third, fourth round that is very manageable and not very high cost. So, taking a tight end super early, and if he becomes a miss, that's a super risk, and you just ruined your draft and probably a fired from your position.
Yeah, I can't agree, or yeah, I can't agree more with you on that. But moving to pick number 14, we've got the Minnesota Vikings on the clock. The Minnesota Vikings last season, they missed the playoffs. They have Kirk Cousins, I believe, for a couple of more seasons. Mike Zimmer is their head coach. The problem with the Minnesota Vikings last season, it wasn't the offense. The offense consistently showed up, but it was the defense that was just inconsistent every single week. You didn't know which Minnesota Vikings defense would show up on any given week. But Sammy, I'll start first with you on this. Who do you have the Vikings selecting at number 14?
I have them selecting offensive tackle from Virginia Tech, not from Northwestern, Christian Darrisaw. I think what the Vikings are right now, they're one of the, I think right now, they're in a weird position. They have a lot of key pieces answered. They have a running back that they could rely on for a future in Dalvin Cook, and they have a wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. Defense is kind of, hit or miss. I feel like they did band aid a couple of the issues, but one thing that you need to do with in your running back is draft offensive line. Darisaw, I feel like played in the ACC. He had a little bit. I'm just scared about Big Ten tackles, offensive linemen for many reasons. That's why I have Slater a little bit fallen a little bit in this draft. But the ACC, I feel like that he's a better experienced, better tempered, better seasoned in that conference with pass rushers than Slater was in the Big Ten. So that's why I have him going here instead of Slater.
All right, and with the number 14 pick, Loro's got Christian Barmore, the defensive tackle out of Alabama, going to Minnesota at pick number 14. And the reasoning that I think Loro had for this pick is that, Minnesota, they lost a couple of pass rushers. They lost Yannick Ngakwe. They also lost a few other pass rushers as well. So they need to rebuild that defensive line. And it starts with Christian Barmore. I watched Christian Barmore play in the SEC. He shut down my Georgia Bulldogs in that game, and he was a beast in that football game. He was a guy that was good at stopping the run. He was also a guy that, teams had to double consistently when it comes to, rushing the passer. The only issue, though, with Christian Barmore and why his stock is currently dropping, and he might be dropping in the NFL draft on Thursday, is that there's reports that Christian Barmore has a high resistance to coaching, and it's concerning a lot of NFL teams out there. I don't know if that report is just a smokescreen or not, but that certainly is concerning because, Sammy, as Mike Zimmer does not put up with BS from his players.
Oh yeah, and he also had one of the toughest coaches in college football, and Nick Saban. So you would know if he's resistant to coaching if he isn't getting along with Nick Saban.
Yeah, that would be a huge red flag for sure. But moving on to pick number 15, the New England Patriots are on the clock. The Patriots last season finished 7-9. They missed the playoffs for the first time since, I believe, 2011. But Sammy, Loro's his Patriots. He's got them drafting Mac Jones, the quarterback from Alabama, and drafting their future franchise quarterback. He's told me consistently that he thinks that Mac Jones, he might be the next Tom Brady with the Patriots. His ability to game manage, his knowledge of football, his football IQ, his athleticism. I could see Bill Belichick falling in love with that, but also Ryan Schreider brought this up, I believe it was last week, that he believes the Patriots with Josh McDaniels, they want a more mobile quarterback to explore the running game in their offense. So after 20 years of Tom Brady, I don't know if they're going to go back down to that route, but if they do, I think Mac Jones would be definitely a no-brainer pick for them. And also, if he manages to fall down to 15, since I know that there's been a lot of hype on him, I'd be shocked if Mac Jones goes to past a top 10 in this upcoming NFL draft.
I agree with you, man. And I have the Patriots selecting Zaven Collins from Tulsa. Extremely versatile linebacker, man. That is something that Bill Belichick falls in love with. Those linebackers that you can move from the 4-3 middle linebacker or 3-4 middle linebacker and shift them out to outside linebacker. He's a very versatile guy, very smart defender. One thing though, I wanted to address about the comments about running quarterback. I don't know if they're. I don't think the Belichick wants a running quarterback. I think that right now, Cam Newton is the best quarterback that the Patriots believe they can get. I think that's why he resigned with them. But you look at the other two quarterbacks and look at every other quarterback that the Patriots have ever gotten: Brian Hoyer, Jarrett Stidham, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jacoby Brissett. You can go on and on and on. None of those quarterbacks are running quarterbacks. They're all pocket passers. And it's not like the Patriots are right now saying, okay, we want Marcus Mariota, or okay, we want this guy. It's Jimmy Garoppolo who they're targeting, who's another pocket passing quarterback. So I think right now I think they want to go back to where they were, but I think they're I don't know about running quarterback as far as, exploring the game plan, because I don't know if they know exactly how to utilize them. I saw last year they used a couple of gadget plays with Cam Newton, but he ended up having one of the worst years of his career last year in that offense. So we'd have to see how that develops with Cam Newton this year.
Speaking of Jimmy Garoppolo and the Patriots, Sammy, so, in today's press conference that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch had in 49ers headquarters in Santa Clara, Kyle Shanahan mentioned the word starting quarterback 20 times in that press conference. And it was a a stark contrast from the last press conference when he was saying that, oh, the rookie's not going to play in week 1 and they're going to, put him on the bench for a year and let him develop and they love Jimmy and all that stuff. That was a stark contrast from what happened today. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is totally gone. I would be shocked if he's still a 49er by the end of the draft weekend. And Sammy, there's been a lot of reports out there that New England is offering a third round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. And also Denver has reportedly contacted the 49ers about potentially trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. First of all, before we move on, what's your thoughts about Denver potentially trading for Jimmy Garoppolo? Do you like the fit? And secondly, who do you think Jimmy G do you think Jimmy G ends up getting traded by the end of the draft?
I don't know by the end of the draft because his value will only go down throughout the draft. And I don't think if no one's drafting offering enough right now, no one's gonna make up picks that they already picked and trade for him. So I don't know if he'll be traded before the end of the draft, if they wait that long. But I think that Broncos, if they stay put and they traded for Jimmy G, and they don't give up a lot, because if they're not giving up an arm and leg, maybe they trade a next year first rounder or next year second rounder, and keeping their first top 10 pick. That's a win-win for them because you're getting a new quarterback that's better than Drew Lock, and then you're getting a piece to give him. So you're giving him a Kyle Pitts, or you're giving him offensive lineman Rashawn Slater or Darsaw or a Sewell, depending on who falls there. So you're able to build the offense around him and not just throw a quarterback in the midst of the wolves and here's a struggling offense, work with it. No, you're building an offense around him. You could do that, and possibly I think next year would be a playoff team if they would do that for the Broncos.
I agree. I like the fit between Denver and Jimmy Garoppolo. First of all, because, it goes back to what we've been saying all along here on this show, and that is Vic Fangio needs to win now. If Vic Fangio does not win now or next season, he's out of a job. He's going to be fired. So he needs to win now. And I think that Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not only better than Drew Lock, but he provides you with a veteran option that can help you win right now. A guy that can get the ball to Cortland Sutton, get the ball to some of the weapons that Denver has. And if you look at Denver's offense, I find it very similar to what San Francisco ran with Jimmy G as their quarterback, which is rely on the running game and then have Garoppolo just be kind of a game manager and get the ball to the weapons, and the weapons make plays. Like guys like Noah Fant, guys like Cortland Sutton, and guys like Jerry Jeudy as well. So I like the fit. You can rely on that defense to win you games as well. I like the fit with Denver. If they don't have to give up a lot, like let's say like a fourth round pick, I definitely do it. But if it's like what San Francisco is offering or wanting right now, which is a first to second round pick, hell no, I'm not doing that if I'm Denver.
I agree with you. The only time I'm doing that is if I feel like I'm a Jimmy Garoppolo away from the Super Bowl, and I don't think that Denver thinks that they're a Jimmy Garoppolo away. And I think that the only reason why they would do that is to keep the Patriots away from Jimmy Garoppolo because we don't need to see another AFC East dynasty in New England.
Yeah, nobody wants to see that for sure. But Sammy, moving on to pick number 16, the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock. They have a high-powered offense with Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury calling the plays. DeAndre Hopkins is there. And Christian Kirk is there as well. And they also fixed their defense this offseason. They got J.J. Watt to go along with Chandler Jones and I believe Terrell Suggs is there. I might be wrong on that, but the Cardinals have started fixing that defense. But Sammy, with the number 16 pick, Low Rose got the Cardinals going for secondary help and going with Caleb Farley, the the cornerback out of Virginia Tech, who many have him pegged as the number 2 corner in this draft. I understand this pick because Patrick Peterson, he's gone. He's gone to Minnesota now, so they do have a void to fill at the cornerback position. Do I think Caleb Farley is the best or the second best corner in this draft? It's kind of debatable between him and I believe that the other guy was Sammy. I'm forgetting I'm forgetting the guy. It's off the top of my head, but do you
I
know
know
who I'm talking
Asante
about?
Samuel Jr. What?
Yeah, I think it is Asante Samuel Jr. It's either him or Caleb Farley as the second best corner in this draft. And also don't forget Greg Newsome from
Yeah.
Northwestern as well that are lumped into that mix. So Loro's got Caleb Farley. Who do you have the Cardinals drafting at number 16?
I have Caleb Farley as well. Because as you said, Pat Pete is gone. That's huge for the Cardinals since that was the face of the defense for like a very short time. He was the face of the Cardinals. And another thing is that they did grab what's his face, Malcolm Butler, but you see a lot of age on that defense, and I think what you need to do is you need to draft young as well. Pat Pete also came in as a rookie and was an instant impact. Hopefully, they can hit with Caleb Farley and get a very productive corner. And you can only add on defensive backs. It's not like you can ever have in the league right now where they go 3-4 wide receivers on a consistent basis. Having at least two solid corners is not a bad thing at all. It's actually really good if you can get yourself 3 solid corners to compete with the 3-4 wide receiver set.
The guy that I forgot earlier was J.C. Horn, the cornerback out of South Carolina, whom I have as the Cardinals pick. I think we all can agree here that the Cardinals they don't need to focus on offense. They don't need to focus on the defensive line because they got J.J. Watt to pair with Chandler Jones. They're going to have a really good defensive line. They need to focus on that secondary because as good as your defensive line is, if you have a weak secondary, the 49ers, I think, learned this in 2019 when they went to the Super Bowl. You won't win that many games if your secondary can't be competent. And I think that's what the Cardinals, they need to focus on. They did lose Patrick Peterson, but they did get Malcolm Butler. So he's going to be one of their top corners. J.C. Horn, whom I have as the Cardinals pick, and Caleb Farley or whomever they draft, they will be that second corner. And like you said, Sam, uh, you cannot have that many corners on your team because especially in that division, you got Stafford, you've got Russell Wilson, you also got whomever the 49ers draft at number 3. So that division could potentially have 3 great quarterbacks in that division.
Yeah, so you mean Mac Jones. So if 49ers like Mac Jones, Russell Wilson, I don't know if he'll be great, but he'll be solid, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't referring to Mac Jones when I said, great quarterback. I was referring to either, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, maybe even Trey Lance. But if it's Mac Jones, the Niners, they have set themselves for potentially last place for the next 3 to 4 years. But moving on to pick number 17, we've got the Las Vegas Raiders on the clock. And I think we all know what the Raiders will do with this pick, and that is address the defensive side of the ball because the Raiders' defense last year was atrocious. They were next to the Dallas Cowboys in the defense being a total atrocity. Their offense is really good, but it's that defense that lost them a lot of games. Sammy, I have the Raiders I have the Raiders actually trading up with the Minnesota Vikings to get pick 14 and getting Micah Parsons. But Loro's got the Raiders getting Jeremiah Owusu Koa from Notre Dame, the inside linebacker. I think that would be a great pick for the Raiders. They have a weak linebacking corpse right now. They need to fix that. They also need to fix the defensive line. The secondary is all right with Abrams and those other guys that they have, but I think it's mainly the defensive line and the linebackers that they need to fix. And if Jeremiah Owusu Kowamoa, man, I can't speak. If Jeremiah Owusu Kowamoa is on the board at that pick, you definitely got to pick him. You can't pass him up because he's the second best linebacker in this draft behind Micah Parsons. And, some may even argue that he might be the top linebacker in this draft. So if he's on the board, you definitely got to take him. But, Sammy, who do you have the Raiders taking at number 17?
Well, I have a surprise for you guys. I do, we also have to acknowledge the Raiders took Solomon Thomas this year from the Niners, and they grabbed a big time free agent, Yannick Ngakoue, from free agency. So they addressed the pass rush. And one thing I have, it was kind of sketchy about is that on offense, you have a quarterback that has taken a beating in his early career in Carr, and you have a young, really good running back. So I have them going offensive line here. Very versatile offensive lineman, too, in Jackson Carman out of Clemson. Very versatile. The dude can play guard, the dude can play tackle. And I have them taking offensive line. And another thing is that they're a big fan of Clemson. You look at their roster; they have at least 3-4 Clemson guys on their team. Hunter Renfrow comes to mind. Christian Wilkins on the defense. So this is a team that loves to pick from the Clemson crops.
And I think that would be a really big surprise because a lot of the mock drafts that I'm reading right now have Jackson Carman penned in the either the very late first round or the second round of the draft. So this might be like another Cleveland Farrell pick from a couple of years ago, though not as bad as Cleveland Farrell, because Cleveland Farrell, I think, was picked to go, in the top 20, but he ended up going number 4 to the Raiders. But I get the pick, Sammy, because they need to protect Derek Carr. The offensive line is still kind of a weakness for the Raiders on their offense, but I would have much rather have the Raiders gone linebacker since they need a guy that can be the signal caller of that defense.
Oh, they have Corey Littleton, and they did this year grab Carl Joseph. I do like their defense right now with John Abraham, Damon Arnett, Amick Robertson. I think would probably be replaced with a later draft pick, and probably in the second, third round. But you look at the defense: Max Crosby, Quentin Jefferson, Solomon Thomas. I think if they can stay healthy, that's the biggest question. Can Solomon Thomas finish off the season and be productive? That is the biggest question I think the Raiders have to answer right now.
Well, about that defensive line, though, like Max Crosby, he's a monster. But Solomon Thomas, I watched him play with the Niners. The guy, when healthy, he could not get past one tackle, let alone two. I mean, the guy just wasn't really that productive with the Niners. He's a great run stopper, though, but he cannot rush the passer. I don't know if it's his pass rush skills or his moves or anything like that, but the guy just cannot seem to get by NFL offensive linemen, and that is what really worries me about Solomon Thomas.
Well, you put him in defensive tackle. They have him defensive tackle. And you have Yannick Ngakoue on the end, and you have Max Crosby at the other, and you say go get the quarterback. And if they try to run it, go to Solomon Thomas and Max Crosby. He's a very coming out of the draft, he was really underrated, and he's shown his haters that he's a very good player so far. And Yannick Ngakoue obviously is a very good outside linebacker. So I think that would help their defense drastically this year, especially Yannick Ngakoue. I think that's the biggest signing this year.
Yeah, maybe Solomon Thomas, a change of scenery would really help him out, but we'll see. But moving on to the Miami Dolphins, they have pick number 18 as part of their flurry of first round picks here in the 2021 NFL draft. With the 18th pick, Sammy, Loro's got the Dolphins drafting another one of Tua's BFFs from Alabama, and that is Najee Harris, the running back out of Alabama. He's got them drafting Najee Harris. I can understand the pick because the Dolphins have reportedly been in the market, whether it's free agency or the draft, for a running back. And, Tua played with Najee Harris at Bama. Imagine Tua, Najee Harris, and Devontae Smith on the outside. That's a pretty good offense. And now you add that to a defense. That might be what pushes the Dolphins over the hump and become a playoff team next season.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't know if Najee Harris would be the person that pushes it over. I think this team's already going over the hump if they get Devonta Smith. This is a team that was already on the brink, and their defense is extremely good. So, and they're only gonna get they're only gonna get better this year. So, I think this team with one pick is going to be over the hump into the playoffs.
And Sammy, who do you have the Dolphins drafting at number 18?
I have them drafting probably the most gadget player in the draft, and I think the best wide receiver. I'm gonna say it, the best wide receiver in the draft, and Rondale Moore out of Purdue. He's a very elusive player, very fast player. So I have him teaming up with Devonta Smith on the same team, two rookie speedsters, man. And then you have Rondale Moore. The thing is you can put him on kick returns. You could put him in the slot, and I feel like that he would go anywhere. You have him on jet sweeps. I feel like you could put this offense on autopilot. You don't even have to have Tua back there. You could throw in, trade for Drew Lock, all right, and he would have him the playoff team with that team, all right.
Yeah, dude, that might be like what the Niners have right now with Ayuk and Debo Samuel. They run a lot of the jet sweep concepts that you mentioned. And also, that might be like what Kansas City has or they had with Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. I mean, imagine the speed that Rondale Moore brings and also Devontae Smith brings. Like, that might be unstoppable in the NFL between those two.
Oh yeah, and Rondale Moore. If you watched him in Purdue, he was giving teams like Ohio State, the Wolverines, Northwestern, Wisconsin. Go down the list of the Big Ten teams. When he's healthy, he was giving those guys problems with an inferior team. So I can't imagine what he's going to be like whenever he gets a team around him and an actual quarterback throwing him the football.
Hey, and with Tua's abilities to throw deep, that would be a perfect mix for both Rondale Moore and Devontae Smith. But about the low rolls pick about Najee Harris, not Devontae Smith. If I'm the Dolphins, I would trade back though instead of getting him at number 18 because I think that if you look at all these teams right now that are ahead of the Dolphins, the Raiders, I don't think they need a running back because they just got Kenyon Drake. Um, you know the Cardinals, they just got James Conner. They don't need a running back. New England, they have a bevy of running backs. They don't need running backs. Minnesota's got Dalvin Cook. They don't need running backs. Detroit, they've got a bevy of running backs. They don't need. Philadelphia, they've got Miles Sanders. They don't need Najee Harris. The Giants, Saquon's coming back, so obviously they don't need him. And then Dallas at 10, Zeke, you don't need to get Najee Harris there. I just think if you're going to get him at 18, that's a little bit high. I would much rather have the Dolphins trade back, maybe into like the later part of the first round, maybe like the number 28 or number 29, like right before Buffalo. Because I think right now Buffalo is the only team that I could see drafting a running back out of like all the teams in this first round.
Yeah, I'd say definitely trade back. When I'm looking at their offense right now, definitely two glaring weaknesses is tight ends and running back. So I could definitely see them trading down to right before Buffalo because you can't let Buffalo get Najee Harris. Them with Najee Harris, and yeah, it's nothing against Devin Singletary, but Najee Harris would take that offense to a whole nother level, and I think would push him past possibly the Chiefs because how good of a player he is and how much of a freaking nature he is, man.
Yeah, dude, you exactly. You cannot let Buffalo take Najee Harris because he would definitely take the Bills' offense up to a couple of levels than they are right now. But moving on to pick number 19, it's the Washington football team. Loro's got the Washington football team not drafting a quarterback, but he's got them drafting Christian Darrisaw, the offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. And I also like this move a lot that Loro made, and makes a lot of sense because they need to fortify that offensive line for whomever that is under center, whether it's Kyle Allen or man, I don't even know. I think Kyle Allen's the only quarterback. Oh no, it's Kyle Allen and Tyler Heineke on the roster. You got to fortify that offensive line. Your defense is already great. Their Washington's offensive line last year was mediocre. So if you draft Darisaw, you would fortify that line, let your whomever is under center be comfortable in the pocket and give them more time to throw the football. I think that's a win-win for both sides. But Sammy, who do you have Washington getting at number 19?
I have him getting the big boy out of USC, Elijah Vera Tucker. And you forgot somebody. You forgot Ryan Fitzmagic, who's now the new Washington football team quarterback. And I think with that offensive line, if they somehow fortify the offensive line, and later in the draft maybe grab like the Minnesota wide receiver or a LSU Terrace Marshall, somehow snag one of them. This offense could be the best team in NFC East and not a 7-9 record team. I think this could be a 9-8 team, a 10-7 team if they play their cards right this offseason.
Yeah, man. Thanks for correcting me on that. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I missed that. He's a great deep thrower, so that would be a huge boost for their offense as well as Terry McLaurin. I think Terry McLaurin's going to have a big year with Ryan Fitzpatrick next season. But moving on to number 20, Callan McClurg's Chicago Bears are on the clock, and the Bears, I think their biggest need is quarterback. Obviously, their other needs, receiver, I could see maybe no, they have too many tight ends already, but wide receiver and quarterbacks are the biggest needs I think for the Chicago Bears. And in my mock draft, Sammy, I have the Bears getting Rashad Bateman, the wide receiver out of Minnesota. I think with Allen Robinson, the uncertainty whether he's even going to be on the team next season because he hasn't even signed his franchise tag, and also Allen Robinson, he might be let go. He reportedly is very unhappy with the team. So with that uncertainty, I think Rashad Bateman, he would slide perfectly into that role and give the Bears a guy that can be a speedster, a guy that can be a good route runner and also has great hands as well. So I got the Bears drafting Rashad Bateman at number 20. But Laurel's got the Bears. Sammy, you ready for this? He's
Let's
got
hear it.
He's got the Bears taking Kyle Trask, the quarterback out of Florida, with the number 20 pick. And, all I'm just going to say about this is I guess the Bears are really desperate. Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, really desperate to save their jobs to get Kyle Trask, and all of their other options are either taken or not available. So that's the only way that I can explain this pick by the Bears. Maybe they're trying to keep him away from New Orleans or keep him away from the other top teams in the early second round. Maybe that's why. But if I'm the Bears, I would not take Trask at number 20. I would take Trask at number. I would trade back, maybe like trade back into like the early second round and then take Trask, because I don't think he's a guy that you should get at number 20 and waste that high of a pick.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. He's definitely a second, third round quarterback. That Oklahoma game really put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Me personally, I had Bears drafting Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern, staying hometown. He's from Chicago. He went to school at Northwestern, which is not too far away from Chicago, very close to it actually. And another thing is that you look at the Bears' offense. One of the things that was, um, not very set a little tensions in the locker room was Nick Foles saying that he Nagy draws plays that intentionally takes long for him to get hit. Like he knows when he's going to be sacked because how long the routes take. I don't know if you remember that, but that was a thing that was going on last year. So one thing that I would do if I was Nagy, and if I remember that, if I'm the Bears GM, is I draft offensive line. Less excuses. I solidify that front five and protect Foles or Andy Dalton, depending on which one they want to go.
Yeah, I think that I could definitely see that working out for the Bears. But if that's the case with Matt Nagy, then if I'm the Bears, I have Matt Nagy give up play calling. And I think that's for the best for the Bears because Matt Nagy, he runs the most vanilla offense I think I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know if you remember this, Sammy, when the Bears, when they had their success last season, especially late in the season, is when I think Bill Lazor took over as the play caller, and he was tremendous as the play caller for the Chicago Bears. Mitchell Trubisky looked like a totally different quarterback. The offense put up 30 points, I believe, in 3 consecutive games. Their offense just looked like a totally different offense when Lazor was calling plays than when Matt Nagy was calling plays. And I don't know why the Bears even let Matt Nagy get back to calling plays this upcoming season. It literally makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, they also needed to sign Mitch Trubisky. As much as a bad relationship that was, Mitch Trubisky fit that offense a lot better than Nick Foles did. And I think he did fit that offense a lot better than even Andy Dalton does. But I understand why they let him go because of the poor decision making.
Let's say, Loro, like his pick somehow, some way comes true, and the Bears draft Kyle Trask with the number 20 pick in the first round. Do you think that two-part question? Do you think that Trask will be the starter right away? And how do you think that Trask will help the Bears offense?
I think that he would be fighting for third string. It's nothing against Trask. It's Andy Dalton and Nick Foles are two solidified NFL quarterbacks. Those guys have been there, done that. And Kyle Trask, to be frank, he hasn't even shown that he's going to be a a good backup yet. So for him to be to jump over Nick Foles, who has a Super Bowl ring because he was playing, and Andy Dalton, who was on the he was remember we got remember forget when Hugh Jackson was in Cincinnati, Andy Dalton was in the MVP candidacy. So these are two very solidified NFL starting quarterbacks. I don't know if Kyle Trask would even make it out of the training camp. That's why I would not draft a quarterback of that of that low of a floor because I think Kyle Trask, he has a high ceiling, but the floor of him is horrible. So I don't know if I would take him. And he's also Mitchell Trubisky. He was more of a scrambling quarterback. He was a big body scrambling quarterback. I think if they were to get a quarterback that was helpful, Kyle Trask is a big body, but he's not scrambling. So I don't think he would help out the offense in the aspect that Mitch Trubisky did.
Yeah, he would only provide the Bears with a guy that could throw the ball down the field. But I think you're right on that. I think you hit the nail on the head that Kyle Trask, if he does get drafted by the Bears at number 20, I don't even know if he's going to be the backup because he's a guy that I think needs to sit for like 1 or 2 years to develop before he actually could start in the NFL and be successful. That's why I think I had him going first round, but I have him going to New Orleans because I think that's a better situation. You can have him learn from Sean Payton with those weapons, and then then you could you can slot him in when he's ready, and I think he would do great with the New Orleans Saints. But with the Bears, with Matt Nagy, I just really don't see it. But going into our comment section real quick before we move on, Chardot agrees with me and Loro. He's got the Falcons drafting Kyle Pitts at number 4 in the 2021 NFL draft. And also, Chardot asks, how are you guys doing this evening? Chardot, thanks so much for tuning into our show. We really appreciate you. We're doing really well right now. Can't wait for the NFL draft this upcoming Thursday. But moving into pick number 21, the Indianapolis Colts are on the clock. Sammy, with this pick, I had the Colts taking defensive end Jalen Phillips out of Miami because, because the Colts, I feel like they do need a guy. They have DeForest Buckner, they have Darius Leonard, but you never can get enough of defensive linemen. So I think Jalen Phillips, he's the best player on the board in my mock draft when the Colts are picking. So that's why I have him going to the Colts. But for Loro, he's got the Colts drafting Alex Leatherwood, the offensive lineman out of Alabama, and I think that could make sense also because the Colts, they're top tackle retired this offseason, so they need someone to fill that void. And also, you need to strengthen that offensive line to protect Carson Wentz. So I like that addition, even though I don't have Alex Leatherwood going to the Colts at number 21, but I do like that addition. But Sammy, who do you have the Colts taking at number 21?
Well, I don't like that addition personally, mostly because Alex Leatherwood plays center, and that'd be kind of a weird fit to put him there. I don't think he's the best tackle there. But you have I have Asante Samuel Jr. One thing we said earlier is that you can't have enough cornerbacks. The Colts last year had had a lot of money, and really this is one of the most complete teams in my opinion in the NFL. You have the Browns, you have the Colts, and you have a couple other teams. I think the Titans as well is what I also said that have. If you look around the roster, there really is no true weakness. They're pretty well rounded. The Colts, in my opinion, are really well rounded. This is a team that is one elite quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contending team. But as of right now, if you strengthen that secondary, get at least three solid corners, put Asante Samuel Jr. in the slot corner, you would have a one really strong defense, and a deep defense at that.
By the way, I just wanna. I checked up on Alex Leatherwood, and he did play left tackle, I believe, until Landon Dickinson, their center, got hurt in the middle of this past season. So I think he could go to left tackle, but I don't know. He did play center a lot, in this season because of Dickinson's injury. So he's kind of versatile, Sammy.
Yeah, that's good. That's good in offensive lineman. It's very rare too, especially in college. As common as you think offensive linemen being versatile in college, it's very rare actually.
Yeah, and you could slot him in at center, if something happens to Ryan Kelly. But I, I mean, I think Leatherwood would be good for the Colts, but I just don't think he's like one of the top left tackles out there. I would have rather the Colts if I know Darisaw is not available in Low Rose mock draft, but I actually had Darisaw going later on in the draft. But if Elijah Vera Tucker is available, I would the Colts. I think they should get him instead of Alex Leatherwood. But Sammy, what do you think about that?
Oh yeah, man. USC pumps out offensive linemen or and linemen in general, left and right at a very good rate. It's not like they're pumping out bumps. These are very good offensive linemen and defensive linemen that they pump out.
Yeah, and also like I would say the Alabama offensive linemen, they are hit and miss. You have guys that are really good, like Ryan Kelly. You have other offensive linemen from Alabama, but you also have guys from Alabama that aren't that good. So I would proceed with caution with guys from Alabama, and I would instead take Elijah Vera Tucker if he's indeed available from USC. But moving into our 22nd pick of the 2021 NFL draft here on our mock draft special. We have the Tennessee Titans on the clock. The Tennessee Titans last season, they made the playoffs. They won the AFC South, but unfortunately, they got eliminated by the Baltimore Ravens in early on in the playoffs. The Tennessee Titans, Sammy, I have them going with safety Trevon Moehrig from TCU. I think they need to fix their secondary. But Laurel's got the Titans going defense as well, but he's got them going with Aziz Ajilari from Georgia, who is the outside linebacker. He can rush the passer from Georgia. I think that would make sense since George. I mean, not Georgia. The Titans, they need a guy that can rush the passer. The Jadeveon Clowney experiment was a complete disaster, so that would make sense. But what do you think about Laurel having Aziz Ojulari to Tennessee?
And it makes sense because if you can get a B plus or A minus pass rusher in Tennessee, that defense would be that defense would be on another level because it's already a really good defense on paper.
But would you rather have the Titans, if you're a Titans fan, right? Would you rather have the Titans go secondary first, or would you rather have them go defensive line?
Oh yeah, they lost. They had two big losses in Desmond King and Malcolm Butler. So I would definitely want. I have him going Tyson Campbell in this from Georgia. He showed me enough to where I feel like that he could step into Tennessee and be at least at the minimum a slot corner or maybe even a starting corner So they definitely need help in that defensive backs room, secondary room.
Wow, Tyson Campbell, I think that might be like the surprise pick thus far, besides Kyle Trask of these mock draft, because I've seen Tyson Campbell, a lot of mock draft have him pegged in the third round. But Sammy, why do you think he would be a good fit for Tennessee in the first round?
Well, like I said, I feel like that this guy does not. I think he has a floor that is not that low. That's one thing that in the prospects like Tennessee that they're probably looking for are floors that aren't that low. And the cornerbacks, they tend to go pretty. If you look at the history of the quarterbacks, Pittsburgh a couple years ago drafted Artie Burns, who I'm sure not a lot of people even had in the first round or or even middle of the second round. So they drafted Artie Burns, and you see how horrible that was. But I think Tyson Campbell, he's on a better defense. He's been in a system. The dude played against better competition, against especially with LSU and Alabama the past 2 years. So the the dude's seen a little NFL competition, and we've seen a lot of film on this guy. I think this guy could be an NFL level corner.
Tyson Campbell is 6'1", 193 pounds. He's got the arm length of sorry about that, folks. We had some technical issues right there, but yeah, Tyson Campbell. You know, I definitely like the addition that you made, Sammy. They definitely need secondary help because they lost Desmond King. They also lost Malcolm Butler, and not to mention Adoree Jackson as well, which was a big loss for them. So they do need some reinforcements in the secondary. But just don't know about Tyson Campbell since I did watch him play as Georgia. But I would say Eric Stokes, in my opinion, was better than Tyson Campbell.
Yeah, I think Georgia's in general always had a really good defense. You can go left and right with their players, honestly.
All right, moving on to pick number 23. We have the New York Jets on the clock again. The Jets, they had the pick number 2 earlier in the draft. Now they have the number 23 pick. So, Sammy, I'll start with you first on this. You have them drafting Zach Wilson at number 2. So, with the number 23 pick now, I'm guessing you have them selecting offensive line to help protect Zach Wilson. Am I correct?
No, because they had an All Pro or a Pro Bowl lineman last year that they selected. I have them fixing a little bit of their defensive problems. Jeremiah Owusu Koromora out of Notre Dame. Dude was one of the best defensive players in ACC last year. And I think that selecting him, the Jets really, you could go left and right and point at almost every position. It's a weakness for them. So drafting a versatile linebacker like Koromora, who played strong safety, who played linebacker, who played slot corner last year, the Jets could toy around with him and move him around a little bit, but have him all over, and mostly a linebacker, and have him as the new leader of the defense.
Yeah, he could step into that Fred Warner role that he played on Robert Sala's defense. So I totally understand that pick that you made, Sammy. But Loro's got the Jets going with they got Jalen Mayfield, the offensive tackle out of Michigan. Sammy, I don't think I've seen Jalen Mayfield in most mock drafts in the first round. I think I've seen him like maybe in the third round. So that's like a really interesting pick that Loro made. But I get it because they need to protect their quarterback. They need to protect Zach Wilson. So I get the pick, but there's reportedly injury concerns with Jalen Mayfield, and that's kind of what worries me about Jalen Mayfield.
Another thing is that if I'm the Jets right now, Mickey Boxton, who was the player I was talking about, 11th overall, he went to the Pro Bowl last year, and the dude looks like he has a bright future above him. So I would not be so fast on selecting offensive line. I understand you have to build it around your quarterback and whatnot, but they have weaknesses almost everywhere, man. So I think selecting the leader for the defense, the next young star on the defense, would be my biggest priority after selecting my franchise quarterback.
I think I had them taking Tevin Jenkins, the offensive lineman out of Oklahoma State, because you could pair, Makai Benton can take the left side, and then you can have Tevin Jenkins be the guy guarding the right side or playing right tackle for the New York Jets. So I think that would be a good move for the Jets, but we'll see what the Jets do with the number 23 pick. But moving on to the number 24 pick, and your Pittsburgh Steelers, Sammy, are on the clock. And I think the big weakness for your Steelers is offensive line. They need to protect Big Ben Roethlisberger, as this is probably going to be his final year in Pittsburgh. Sammy, I'll start with you first on this since you're a Steelers fan on this panel. But who do you have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking with the number 24 pick?
Well, we do have a lot of weaknesses, especially in the run game and offensive line with Villanueva and Pouncey retiring. I have Pouncey's replacement, Alex Leatherwood. I know we talked about him a few picks ago, but I think right now this is a pick that Pittsburgh needs to take. They could probably trade down and draft him. I think that's what they should do. But it's tough right now being a Pittsburgh fan watching this because you're too. I think they're too high right now to take a Najee Harris, and I think if they take a Najee Harris, they're looking at the very very short future. They're not building the offensive line. They're not building the future. They're building a temporary team for this year, and then after next year they're going to be in shambles because they're going to have a quarterback that's going to be brand new, and then Najee Harris, and then they're going to have an offensive line that is below average. So I think you have to go offensive line there if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I think if you're going to draft Najee Harris, I think you should trade back and get more assets to get Najee Harris. I think that would be the best plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Sammy, I think Lowell's got a really eye-opening pick for your Steelers. Your Steelers, their biggest draft needs is center. They need a center because Mike Pouncey retired. They need linebacker. They need an offensive tackle, running back, as well as an edge rusher slash outside linebacker. But he's got Pittsburgh drafting J.C. Horn, who many have him as the second best corner on the draft board. But I don't think your Pittsburgh Steelers really need secondary help. I mean, they've got Minka Fitzpatrick, they've got other guys there too. So I personally don't understand this selection that Lowell made. But what do you think about Lowell having J.C. Horn to your Pittsburgh Steelers at number 24?
I definitely understand it. J.C. Horn would definitely be a weak. A corner has been a weakness for us now, since we had to cut Stephen Nelson, and Justin Lane just got in legal trouble out in Cleveland, Ohio, driving with a suspended license, under the influence with a gun in the car. He did everything he possibly could to get locked up. So we're down with two cornerbacks already. And the thing is, with drafting a cornerback, Pittsburgh has never had luck with drafting corners. If you could go down the list of corners that Kevin Colbert's drafted, I think Ike Taylor was the only player I could think of. Maybe William Gay, but I don't think we drafted William Gay. So you could go down the list of picks that we've done with corners. We've never had good luck with them. So that's why I picked offensive lineman because you think of the Iowa, the David DeCastro, you think of Mike Adams, left and right, all successful offensive linemen. As far as corners, though, we've never had good luck at drafting corners.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I just think the Pittsburgh Steelers they have much bigger needs to address than drafting a corner with the number 24 pick. But hey, if J.C. Horn is on the board, that would be a good addition because he's the second best cornerback in the draft, and in that spot, you might as well just take the best player available if he falls, from where he is projected right now. But going to the number 25th pick, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. We all had the Jaguars with the number one pick, taking Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback out of Clemson. Well, Sammy, are you ready for the shocker of the draft?
Let's hear it.
Loro, with the number 25th pick, has the Jacksonville Jaguars drafting Travis Etienne, the running back out of Clemson, Trevor Lawrence's teammate at Clemson. And Sammy, I don't know. I don't know what to like. I've been trying to think of a reason to justify this pick that Low Roll made, but I can't, man. I really can't because they have James Robinson who ran for 1,000+ yards last season. They brought in Carlos Hyde. I think they brought in one more running back as well. Running back, I think, is their least of their concern. They need to fortify their offensive line. They need pass rush. They need secondary help. I don't understand this pick, but try to help me understand this pick.
Your guess is as good as mine, man. I really like James Robinson. You know he's undrafted. I hate drafting quarterbacks in the first round, anyways. So yeah, I could not give you any help on that one.
Yeah, I really don't understand this pick. Low roll, if you're watching this show, please, feel free to comment as to why you think Travis Etienne will be the Jaguars pick at number 25. We would really appreciate that, response from you. But going into our comment section before we get Sammy's 25th pick from the Jaguars. John Alcorn types in from the MI6 Sports Network. What's up, y'all? What's going on, John? Thanks so much for tuning into our show tonight. And also, I guess this is Callan. He says, "Hey, Leung, you're being watched. This show better not go until 9:30 p.m. tonight." Don't worry, Callan. We're gonna go until 11 p.m. tonight. Just kidding. But Sammy, who do you have? Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars taking at number 25.
I think they have a lot of weaknesses. Obviously, this is basically a brand new team going into this year, but I don't have them drafting offense. I have them drafting Jalen Phillips out of Miami University, out of the U, and the reason why is because their interior defensive line is horrible. The Jacksonville, they what thing that they need to work on is the defensive line. I like the pass rushers, and Josh Allen on the edge. But as far as the rest of the defense goes, you have one solid corner, a pretty horrid defensive line, and then the offensive line. I have to look the depth chart again, and I feel like Urban Meyer can work around that offensive line. I feel like you can scheme around a horrible offensive line, but if you're going to get beat in the trenches on defense, it's a bad look because it's very easy to beat a team with a horrible front seven, and that's one thing that the Jacksonville Jaguars have to work on this year.
Yeah, I agree with that pick. I had the Jaguars going defensive line help as well because they need to get that pass rush fortified. You look at their defensive line right now; it's basically Josh Allen and a bunch of scrubs. That's basically what their defensive line is. I don't mean to disrespect anyone, but that's pretty much what it is right now. And you got to give Josh Allen more help along that defensive line. Like we saw in the Super Bowl, if you don't have a great pass rush, you're not going to win anything in the NFL. San Francisco showed that to us 2 years ago. Tampa Bay showed that to us last season. You need to have a good pass rush to be able to win in the NFL. So I definitely like that pick more than I like the Travis Etienne pick. But going into pick number 26, and that is, I believe it was the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns have the number 26 pick. Sammy, I'll start with you first on this. My man Ryan, our guy Ryan Schreiner is watching this show very closely to see who you got his Browns taking. Who do you have his Browns taking with the 27th pick?
Well, I think they have two weaknesses: interior defense, defensive line in general. Even though they have Myles Garrett, I'm not too sold on Jadeveon Clowney, even though they've been trying to get him for forever. And linebacking core. I think the linebacking core in general is pretty weak in depth. So I have them taking, I think, the best linebacker right now, Jamin Davis, out of University of Kentucky. That's really Browns outside of that are a pretty strong team, strong unit outside of those two positions. So I feel like that would be a very a definite need in the upgrade for what the Browns have.
Yeah, and Low Roll agrees with you on this pick for the Browns. He's got them drafting Dylan Moses, the linebacker out of Alabama, which would really help them, on the inside, because the linebackers, like you mentioned, was one of their biggest weaknesses. They did kind of fortify their defensive line with Clowney, though. Me and you both were not sure about what type of production you're going to get from Jadeveon Clowney. But Dylan Moses is a really good player. Before he got hurt, I think he was one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Now the Browns, I believe their top linebacker, Sammy, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Mack Wilson, right? The linebacker out of Alabama. So you definitely have to fortify that linebacking corps.
Yeah, I'd have to look again. But yeah, it's the linebacking corps in general. It is not their strongest suit, and you could always put the Javion Clowney, I guess. I don't think he'd fit in a 4-3 outside linebacker, but it's always an option. Yeah, you look at Sion Takati, Taki, and then Anthony Walker and Jacob Phillips. So it's not a very strong linebacking core at all. I'd say at least subpar to say the least.
I feel like the Browns this free agency period they should have added one linebacker to that mix, especially a veteran linebacker to help those young guys out. But Dylan Moses, he's a good run stopper. He's a guy that can also defend the tight ends and some receivers as well. So I understand the pick from low roll, but moving into pick number 27, we got the Baltimore Ravens on the clock, and the Baltimore Ravens, in low roll's opinion, he's got them drafting Kwity Paye with the number 27 pick. I get the pick because the Ravens are drafting BPA, or best player available in the draft. And Kwity Paye, if he falls to number 27, you got to pick him because this guy, he's really fast around the edge. He's a guy that's one of the best pass rushers in this draft. I know the Ravens have a really good defense, but you can't have enough defensive linemen in the NFL. And if Kwity Paye is available, you got to take him. I liken this situation to what the Jaguars did a couple of years ago when they had that amazing defensive line and they were on the clock and Josh Allen fell to them and they picked Josh Allen because you just can't have enough defensive linemen in the NFL. But Sammy, what do you think about Kwity Paye to Baltimore at number 27?
I also have Christian Barmore. So, we both have defensive pass rushers. One thing that they lost, and the Ravens were the biggest losers this year. They lost Matt Judon and Yannick Ngakoue. So losing your two top pass rushers and then getting nothing out of it, that is you have to draft a pass rusher this year or a defensive lineman this year to at least put a band-aid on the defensive side.
Yeah, definitely. I think Kwity Paye or Christian Barmore, like you said, they would slot in there and be impact players from day one. But moving on to pick number 28, the New Orleans Saints are on the clock. Drew Brees, he retired. It's a changing of the guard in New Orleans. They need a new quarterback, as well as other stuff on that team. But Sammy, you know how I said that Travis Etienne to the Jaguars was low rose surprise pick of his mock draft. Well, I think I got one that trumps it all. You
Let's
ready
hear
for
it.
this?
Let's hear it.
With the number 28 pick in this NFL draft, Loro has the Saints grabbing Davis Mills, the quarterback out of Stanford. And if you think the Kyle Trask pick was wild, this pick I think trumps everything in his mock draft. I've been trying to find a reason as to why. Yes, I've been trying to find a reason as to why Loro could have Davis Mills going to the Saints at number 28, and I'm only guessing because maybe he has him doing, or maybe he has the Saints doing what I'm thinking the Saints are going to do, and that is draft the successor to Drew Brees, have him sit on the bench for 1 or 2 seasons, and then groom him and develop him, and then throw him in as their starting quarterback behind those weapons and that offensive line. And they don't want to, because I think the Saints pick later on in the second round, and they're scared that either Trask or Amon or Mills, or someone they really like, is going to not be there when they're picking. So I guess they're going to reach for them. Like, I know a lot of teams have done that in the past. The Seahawks with Jordan Brooks, I think it was a couple of years ago in the first round. But that's the only explanation I could think of as to why he has Davis Mills going to the Saints at New Orleans. But Sammy, do you have any thoughts about Loro putting Davis Mills to the New Orleans Saints at number 28?
I guess they need a third string quarterback, I guess. They're really desperate for that quarterback position. They're kind of confused because I feel like Jameis Winston's going to lock down that position, and then Taysom Hill's going to be his backup and be his utility man.
And honestly, I don't even think Davis Mills, if you're looking like besides, Lawrence, Wilson, Jones, Fields, and Lance, besides the top five, I don't even think that Davis Mills is the best quarterbacks or is one of the best quarterback behind like those top five that I just mentioned. I think it's Trask, Mond, and then Davis Mills. I watched Davis Mills play at Stanford, and against Pac-12 defenses, this guy really wasn't that impressive. And I don't know like why everybody is so hyped about Davis Mills. Like I personally would not take him in the second round, let alone in the first round. But hey, that's who Laurel has at number 28. He's got Davis Mills, the quarterback at Stanford, going to New Orleans at pick number 28. Sammy, I think that's like seven quarterbacks in the first round.
Yeah, it's a shocker. Shocker.
I think Lowell is trying to break an NFL record. I think that's what he's doing because I don't think we've ever had seven quarterbacks taken in round one. But Sammy, how about you? Who do you have the Saints drafting with the number 28 pick in the draft?
I am taking Trevon Moehrig out of TCU safety. Their safeties, their DBs are getting older. Not cornerbacks, but Malcolm Jenkins specifically. To grab his successor and possibly have someone across from across the other side of the field from him would be fantastic for the Saints. And I feel like this team is in general is a pretty strong team. They have very few weaknesses. They have their quarterback, they have their running back, they have their tight end, or not tight end, but their wide receiver. As far as what's available on the draft board right now, I think that's the best route that they can go.
Yeah, I like Trevon Moehrig a lot. I mean, this guy reminds me a lot of Jonathan Abrams. He's a guy that has quality instincts. He's a physical tackler. He's a hard hitter. He's a great run defender. He's a guy that can, play side to side. Really like Trevon Moehrig. I think he would be a great fit with New Orleans Saints, and also he would definitely be a replacement for one of those veteran players that they have currently in the secondary. But moving on to pick number 30, we got three picks left here in this first round. The Buffalo Bills are on the clock. Moving on to pick 29, not 30. The Green Bay Packers are on the clock. Sammy, do you have the Packers going with another Jordan Love type pick from this year, or do you think the Packers will keep it rather less controversial than they had last year?
I think it's going to be a little bit controversial because they're not going to pick offense. I think they're going to pick Greg Newsome out of Northwestern, really good corner. And one thing you saw last year was them getting beat on the edge in the NFC Championship game. I think that's still burned in their heads. So getting another corner at Greg Newsome's level would definitely help them out a lot.
Me and you don't really agree that much here on the show, but that's who I had the Packers taking. I had the Packers taking Greg Newsome just because there's corners last year. They got burned a lot. Kevin King in that NFC Championship game against Scotty Miller. I mean, it was really embarrassing. So they need to take another corner to help fortify that secondary. But Loro has them taking offense. He's got them taking Rashad Bateman, the wide receiver out of Minnesota. I mean, if you pair Rashad Bateman with Jamal Adams, or not Jamal Adams, Devontae Adams, and the rest of the receivers, Valdez Scantling and those guys, that might be one of the best wide receiving corps in the NFL.
I wouldn't go that high on Rashad Bateman. I'm a little skeptical of him. I know Tanner Morgan last couple years ago was an extremely accurate quarterback. I think Bateman opted out last year, so we didn't see much film of him. But Tanner Morgan was a very accurate quarterback a couple years ago, so I would be very skeptical on him.
But with Aaron Rodgers throwing Rashad Bateman the football, though, instead of Tanner Morgan?
We'll have to see his talent. Rashad Bateman was also going against college football corners, and he flourished against teams like Iowa and teams that did not have elite level corners. We're going to see him go against on a week to week basis elite level corners on every game.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he might have it easier in Green Bay, considering that Devontae Adams would be getting a lot of the attention from the defense, so that would free up a lot of free space for Rashad Bateman and all the Scantling and all those wide receivers that they have in Green Bay. But finally, moving on to pick number 30, the Buffalo Bills are on the clock. And Sammy, I think the Buffalo Bills they have a needed running back. Obviously, they have some needs on the defensive side of the football, mainly the defensive line. And I agree with Loro's pick here. He's got Buffalo taking Jalen Twyman, the defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh, to help fortify their defensive line. Their defensive line was one of the big issues with this football team last season. So if you put him in there to fortify that defense, I think would be a great fit for the Bills. But I also could see them going with either Travis Etienne or Najee Harris to help take that running game and take that offense up a couple of notches. I mean, imagine if they get Najee Harris or if they get Travis Etienne, a guy that can run the football effectively and also guy that can, come out of the backfield and catch passes. I really like that fit of Etienne and Allen. But Sammy, who do you have the Bills taking at number 30?
I have taken Najee Harris out of Alabama, man. If you put Najee Harris, Stephon Diggs, and Josh Allen all on the same offense, there's nowhere. I mean, this is like Alabama last year. Okay, there's nowhere you can go that you feel safe and covering. I feel like that they would take the Bills' offense up astronomically, in my opinion.
Dude, that would be hella scary with Najee Harris, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. I mean, how could you even begin to stop this offense? I mean, the only thing that could keep this team from potentially winning the Super Bowl, well, there's two things: the Kansas City Chiefs being alive and the defense. Because I still don't really trust that defense after the defense, I think, took a bit of a step back after that great season that they had the year before this past season.
Well, they also ran into a buzzsaw. I think they played the Chiefs twice, so you run into a buzzsaw when you play a team like the Chiefs that have the explosiveness that they have.
All right, moving on to pick number 31. The Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock. And I think that, well, this mock draft that Loro made was made before the Orlando Brown trade. He has them going with Sammy Okosmi, the offensive tackle out of Texas. I get that because they needed to improve their offensive line, especially the tackle positions, having released Eric Fisher and also Mitchell Schwartz. But now that takes you don't really have like that's not that big of a need now, considering you do have Orlando Brown. You got him from the Ravens. You also got Joe Thuney in free agency. So I like that pick here by Loro, but I still think that the Chiefs now, after getting Orlando Brown, it's less of a burden on them uh, as as to before they got Orlando Brown. But Sammy, who do you have the Chiefs taking at number 31? Do you have them going offensive line, or do you have them, drafting other positions?
I have the Ravens taking Rashad Bateman because of I feel like the Ravens think that they need to build their offense like a spread type offense, like air it out vertical, which I feel like it's not going to work out with a quarterback like Lamar Jackson. What worked 2 years ago was having the option and having a option where you could throw it to the two big tight ends that were impact players, and they kind of gotten away from that. And I don't think they're going to go back to that anytime soon. So I think it's only gonna hurt them because they're going to go try to go more air it out, more modern day. And I don't think Lamar Jackson is the right quarterback for that.
Yeah, I completely forgot that the Ravens now own the 31 pick, having traded it or trading Orlando Brown Jr. to the Chiefs for that pick. So our mock drafts are like dead before the draft even got started. But moving into the final pick of the night, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the defending Super Bowl champions, at number 32. Sammy, I'll let you go first on this one. Tom Brady and the Bucks, their offense is stacked. They brought almost everybody back on that offense and that defense. Who do you have the Bucks taking with the final pick of the first round of the NFL draft?
I have him getting younger on the defense, man, and getting Gregory Russo out of Miami, man, and to replace JPP because he's going to be retiring eventually. So having another pass rusher and having a deep defensive line, and that's what they got him there. It was that pass rush. It wasn't Tom Brady that got him there. I mean, partially Tom Brady, but remember he threw 3 interceptions in the NFC Championship game. They won that game because of the defense and the pass rush, beating Aaron Rodgers, and they won the Super Bowl because of that pass rush. So I think they're going to get deeper on the pass rush, and I think they're going to be a team to mess with even after Tom Brady retires if they can replace him.
Dude, I agree with you. I have them going defensive end. Basically the same reason as you do because JPP is getting older. He's probably going to retire soon. I have the Bucks kind of imitating what the Chiefs did. I don't know if you remember back when the Chiefs had Justin Houston, Tom Bahali, and that loaded defense. They still picked D Ford because not only was he the best player available on the board, but they picked him because it was to clone a replacement for either Justin Houston or Tom Bahali. And it was also to provide depth at that time for that defensive line. And you saw what happened after Holly left, after Houston left. D Ford stepped in, and he had a fantastic couple of seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's what the Buccaneers are trying to do here. I have them going with Aziz Jewelry from Georgia to primarily become like a kind of like a replacement for Jason Pierre-Paul. And imagine like in the next couple of years, you have Aziz Jewelry and Shaq Barrett on the left side, a Jewelry on the right side. I mean, that would be a game wrecker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And also you can have, when JPP comes out, you can have a Jewelry coming in and rushing the passer for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Loro's actually got the Bucks going offensive line. He's got them going with Liam Eichenberg, the offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Like we said earlier, this Bucks team, they're stacked. They don't really have that many big needs on this football team, so they're just trying to draft for depth here. And Sammy, what do you think about what Loro? His prediction is that Liam Eichenberg is going to be the pick for Tampa Bay, the offensive lineman out of Notre Dame.
I think it's a bit of a reach. I know he hasn't had a lot of wide receivers, so I'm sure I feel like that they would replace in his scenario that they would replace a wide if they were to go offense is that they would replace AB and replace him with like a Terrace Marshall type wide receiver. I feel like that's if they were to go offense, that's the route they would take.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think either Terrace Marshall or I'm trying to look at some of the receivers that he left out. I think he also left out Kadarius Toney as well from Florida. I think Kadarius Toney could be a great fit for Tampa because he's really fast. He's a guy that's really good after the catch. And imagine Tom Brady throwing to Kadarius Toney. I mean, that would be a tremendous fit for the Buccaneers.
Oh, he's also used to the weather.
For sure. Yeah, definitely, for sure. But going into our comment section, my guy Chardot says, I got the New York Jets drafting Zach Wilson at number 2. And also Chardot says, I got the Washington football team drafting Elijah Vera Tucker, and he will strengthen this football team and make them into a superstar organization with this move. Chardot, I think we talked about this earlier. Elijah Vera Tucker would be my pick. I think Loro had, let me see. Loro had, I believe it was, them drafting Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech. Or no, we were talking about Alex Leatherwood. I apologize, but you can't go wrong with either Darrisaw or Elijah Vera Tucker. Those two guys are going to be tremendous tackles in this league. But folks, it's been a long show. This has been a great mock draft special, but it's now time to head into tonight's final thoughts. Actually, before we get into final thoughts, Sammy, one more thing is that if you had a surprise pick, a surprise prediction, because every first round we have one of those surprise picks, which one or who do you think will be the surprise pick?
I think it's already gonna be Mac Jones, taking third overall. But I guess it would be Kyle Trask because I think there's gonna be teams late in the first round that are going to be tempted to take it. Even Pittsburgh maybe trading lower to grab a quarterback, but I doubt they will since they drafted since they signed Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph. But I can see Kyle Trask being that surprise drafted player somewhere late in the first round.
For me, my surprise pick, if I have to make a prediction now, it wasn't in my mock draft, but after the latest reports that I've been hearing, I think my WTF moment would be the Bears drafting Kellen Mond in the first round because there's a lot of reports saying that Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, and the Chicago Bears have been doing extensive research on Kellen Mond and what makes him a great quarterback. And I think that would be a mistake to draft him in the first round. I don't even know why. Like a lot of people are really high on Kellen Mond. I watched this guy play in the SEC. He did not impress me whatsoever. He was very inconsistent, and I think it would be a huge mistake if the Bears do, in fact, pull the trigger on that move. But, folks, it's been a tremendous show, but it's now time to go into tonight. Final thoughts. All right, Sammy, it's been a long, long show. It's been a fun show as well. But what is your final thoughts for tonight's show?
It was a great mock draft. It was very fun to do this with y'all. I appreciate the people coming in. And one thing I'm still speechless about is, and Loro needs to come in here ASAP and explain himself for the Travis Etienne pick. I think that's the ETN pick, and I think that's the only pick that I'm just completely lost in. And the Davis Mills pick, I don't even know if you put him on the Saints, he would make the roster. Okay. It's nothing against him. It's just that they have a filled out roster. So he needs to come in here and explain it ASAP.
I cannot agree anymore with you. Laurel, if you're watching, please feel free to either comment in the comments section or feel free to pop in if you want, and explain the Travis Etienne pick as well as the Davis Mills pick as well, because me and Sammy, we really don't understand that pick. So if you can provide some reasoning about that pick, it would really help us. But before I get into my final thoughts, just want to thank the fans for tuning into our show tonight. I want to thank Chardot. I want to thank the MI6 Sports Network, Cal McClurg, as well as Casey King, Christy Wilson for tuning in as well, and also Stephen Wang for tuning in and sharing our show everywhere. We really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in to our stream tonight. We thank you guys so much for the love and the support that you guys constantly give us. Folks, make sure you guys tune in this Thursday as the NFL Draft First Round comes to you live from Cleveland. The MI6 Sports Network will proudly present our 2021 NFL Draft Extravaganza. Myself, Sammy, John Alcorn, Furman, Loro, and everybody on the MI6 Sports Network will be joining you guys at the table. We will be streaming the draft live, and we will be watching and reacting to each and every pick and every trade that comes in the 2021 NFL draft. It's going to be a 4-hour show, so make sure you guys get your coffee, your Red Bull, your popcorn, soda, whatever, and just relax, sit on the couch, and just watch our program, man. It's going to be one of the most epic shows that we have here on the network. I'm really looking forward to it. Make sure you guys check it out. MI6 Sports Network Draft Extravaganza coming to you on Thursday, April 29th. That's this Thursday. Really, really hope you guys check that out. And also tune in for pick number 3 when it happens. Don't watch it on TV. Watch it here on the MI6 Sports Network, because you would want to see me and Furman's legendary reaction if we do, in fact, draft Mac Jones, and if John Alcorn's Broncos get Jimmy Garoppolo in a trade, or they do something stupid, or Shree's Patriots draft Trey Lance. You're going to see a bunch of guys flipping out, and you're going to see a lot of legendary moments that will last a lifetime. But once again, guys, it's been a great show. Thank you so much for tuning in to our Wild Sports Talk mock draft special part 2. It's been so much fun. Me and Sammy, we really appreciate you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you guys back on here on Thursday, April 29th, this Thursday, 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time, 7:45 p.m. Eastern for the 2021 MI6 Sports Network Draft Extravaganza. Have a good night, everybody. One last thing. Zach Wilson's going to the Niners. Better believe it.